my name is Vix. Welcome or welcome back to my booktube channel, Goddess of Gore, where I like to talk about horror, thriller, sometimes fantasy and occasionally sci-fi books every week. This week is about my March book haul. So first of all, a little recap. At the start of the year, I had to put myself on a book budget of £40 a month to halt my extravagant spending on luxuries. It has really forced me to think about what I was actually buying and not just buying all of the books. So shall we find out what I spent my £40 on last month? So first of all, in the UK it was Mother's Day and my children bought me the Knack McFeagle's Big Wee alphabet book for big jobs and wee scunners. This is based on the Wee Free Men in the Tiffany Aching Witch series by Terry Pratchett. And in it are all the words that they use, such as A is for ah, and O is for offski. Now, I love the Tiffany Aching series, as I'm sure I've mentioned probably every month ever since I've actually read it. So obviously this was the best choice for their mother. So that was a gift. I thought I'd get it out of the way first. And then I bought Gallant by Ve Schwab, and it's a brand new book, and it was the only one because you know I like to get my used books more for my money, but I couldn't resist getting a signed copy of this. And isn't it beautiful with its sprayed edges and inner artwork? But what's it about? It's about a girl named Olivia, age 16. She is ready to leave her boarding school, but with no parents, she has nowhere to go. Luckily, she receives a letter from an uncle she's never met, inviting her to his estate called Gallant to live the rest of her adult life. But when she gets there, she finds out her uncle sent the letter some years ago and has since died. What she finds left in charge is her cousin Matthew and the housekeepers. Matthew lets her stay on two conditions. She must not go out after dusk, and she must stay on the right side of the wall surrounding the estate. Well, as we know from all our time reading books, that as soon as someone is given rules to follow, they immediately turn into curious cats and break them, and Olivia is no exception to those rules. And what she finds on the other side of the wall is another upside down Gallant waiting for her. So I have on purpose avoided any reviews of this book since it's so small. I don't want it spoilt, but I imagine from that description it will be a light sprinkle of spooky haunted house. And this was slightly cheaper than the $17.99 cover price. I think it was $15.29. So what next? Well, I got the Winter Night trilogy, and the first book I've already put on my TBR for April, and I'm positively chomping at the bit to get to it. So the 3 books cost me £14, but 2 of them are hardbacks, so I can't moan, especially since that's almost the cost of one of the hardbacks. The whole trilogy follows a girl named Vasya in the freezing land of Russia. It's steeped in mythology and folklore. It's a romantic and haunting trilogy full of monsters, magic, and adult historical magical fiction. And as I said, I cannot wait to get to the first instalment this month. Next was a book that I was actually recommended after I put out a question about horror fairy tales. Who doesn't love evil fairies? Honestly, who doesn't love the tales of mermaids that aren't just pretty little fish girls who comb their hair and sing to sailors? They're actually evil killers of the sea who lure people to their deaths. Which one sounds better to you? So this is a fairy tale by Raymond E. Feist, and it's about the Hastings family. Mum, dad, twin boys and a teenage daughter who buy a rundown house known by the locals as the Kessler Place in a little village on a bit of land called Earl King Hill, or Hill of the Elf King. The rumours about the place involve strange fiery lights coming from the dense woods at the back of the house, lost children from long forgotten about families, and buried treasure. But the Hastings think they found their dream home and a fresh start. That is, until their twins are lured into the woods by elfin creatures who are more sinister than they first seem. It's a book of old Celtic magic and demons who want to possess children's souls. And honestly, just look at this cover. It's bloody brilliant. Makes me smile every time I look at it. And this cost me £3. Another £3 book is The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is book 1 of the Farseers trilogy. This book introduces Fitz, who I know is a much loved character in the fantasy reader's world. So, it follows Fitz, the bastard son of a former heir to the throne. Kept as a stable boy within the kingdom, he soon finds he has a special gift called the Wit, which allows him to bond telepathically with animals, and he soon finds friends with the animals around him. As Fitz becomes older, he becomes a kingsman and takes an oath to become the king's protector, and is soon put under the care of Chade, a highly skilled assassin. Fitz will use his gift as well as his new skill to save the throne and the kingdom for the uncle who despises him. Next is a book my friend Katrina, her YouTube channel is Katrina Brown, highly recommends. She highly praises, and that is Monstrous by Marjorie Liu and Susanna Takeda. And this was £1.50. This is an alternate 1900s Asian-inspired graphic novel told in an Art Deco steampunk style that tells the story of Maker, a teenage girl who's sold into slavery after surviving a war between humans and Arcanics. But she knows she's different. There's a monster inside of her, and she becomes hunted for that power she has. But will they get to her before the monster within is unleashed? The artwork inside this is truly stunning, and I do hope the story can live up to that. So, they were the main takers of the budget this month, but I'm not really sad about it. I did manage to get a few more charity shop bargains. So, £1 books were Elizabeth is Missing and Discovery of Witches. Elizabeth is Missing is the debut of Emma Healy. I found her second book last month when I saw this on a shelf, and I thought, I recognise that name, so why not? This is a book about Maud. She's elderly, a lot forgetful, but one thing she's very sure of, and that is the fact that Elizabeth, her best friend, is missing, and she will not stop talking about it until she finds out what has happened. And as it says at the top, just underneath that sticker there, how do you solve a mystery when you can't remember the clues? When I read this at the back, I thought it sounded in the style of A Man Called Ove or The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. So we'll see, because those are two absolutely fantastic books that I read a few years ago. So we'll see. And A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This is book 1 of the All Souls trilogy, set in the real world Bodleian Library in Oxford, which is a stunning Gothic library backdrop to imagine. You can do an image search on Google and it's beautiful. It's 420 years old and honestly, mwah. This follows a student called Diana. It's a series as well, so I'm sure you've heard of it. It follows a woman called Diana who, as part of her research, has unwittingly found a centuries-old manuscript that demons, witches and vampires need to find some lost treasure or something like that. This is probably a bit too Twilight with witches for me, but I'm willing to give it a go. But it is a bit of a chunker, so we'll see. And it was £1, so yeah. Next, 50p books, and there is 5 of them, and then we're done. Okay, so first of all, I got 2 Karen Slaughters. Now, I do this a lot when I'm collecting books by an author with a large back catalogue. I see the author's name, hold the book for a while and go, have I got it, have I got it, have I got it? No. And I buy it. And I've always got it. So that's what happened with Pieces of Her. This is now the 3rd time that I've bought it. And a while ago I found out that I had 5 copies of a Mo Hayden novel, so never mind. I'm going to have to make a list, aren't I? So yeah, Karen Slaughter, Skin Privilege. I bought this because I can't find my original copy, and I knew I didn't have this one for definite. It's part of the Grant County collection. Now I've no idea where my original one has gone. I don't know if I've lent it to someone, but I'm very annoyed because this doesn't match those, right? I'll move on. I will move on. The medical examiner, Sarah Linton, as always in the Grant County books, is in the middle of a malpractice lawsuit when she is called upon to help one of her husband's colleagues, who is a detective, Lena Adams, just been arrested for murder. Violence and serial killers are usually involved in these small town murders, and Karen Slaughter does them so well. So that one's going on the shelf, and that one's going back to a charity shop. Next, Mallory by Josh Malerman. A highly contested follow-up to Bird Box that a lot of people in the horror community do still wonder why he wrote it, other than for the ka-ching. But it follows where Bird Box left off years later, and Mallory's children from the original book are now teenagers and living in a refuge. It's at that refuge that a stranger turns up but denied a stay. He's not welcome, but he leaves behind a list with names on, and Mallory recognises 2 of those names. So again, she sets out on a suicide mission to find her family. Last 2 are Paranessi by Susanna Clarke. Now I have already read this and I absolutely, I don't know, I didn't particularly enjoy it, but I couldn't leave it in a charity shop for 50p. Look at it, it's beautiful. It's about a being called Paranessi, and in his world he is alone, or so he thought. Occasionally visited by a wise, godlike being, he tries to map out the lands before him, a caretaker of the world, if you will, until one day some messages on the pavements of that world, and they weren't there before. He knows that there was once other few people in his world, but they are long gone. So who is leaving the messages, and what do they want? Honestly, this book was so confusing until the end, and then I was like, I didn't need to know about the other 230 pages, did I? Or did I? I don't know. Like I said, I didn't get it. But yeah, maybe one day I'll reread it. And then finally is my favourite book, maybe of last year. It's definitely the only book I do remember reading last year, and that is Mrs. Death by Selena Godden. It is the most beautiful book I have ever listened to. I was the first lender to take the book from my library last year. It was probably the most anticipated book I wanted last year. I got it in my grubby little mitts, and guess what? I read 30 pages and I hated it. I was so cross. I loved the synopsis. Death is a woman and she's exhausted. Aren't we all, darling? And she wants someone to talk to, and that is a young, struggling author called Wolf. That sounds right up my alley. I tried it again. I went on the wait list for the audiobook, put it on loudspeaker and did some decorating. I hated it even more. What was wrong with me? I will tell you. This book is poetry. I do not read poetry. I don't understand poetry. What I am is a listener of poetry, and the speaker has to be a magician to me. So, yes, I did snatch up the book from the shelf in the chapter shop and run with sheer joy and ecstasy to the counter to hand over my money. But it's in the audio where the magic was for me. Selena Godden narrates the book herself, and her voice is amazing. It's dreamy, it's creamy, it's luxury, it's velvet, it's golden caramel, it's dolce lychee being stirred in a pot. It's heaven, it's witchcraft, and I highly recommend the audio to read the book. It's about Mrs. Death. It's about life, death, and everything in between. Wolf has seen Mrs. Death before and he didn't know it was her, but she's been in his life several times, and now she's found him again, and she wants to tell him a story. She wants to tell him how tired she is. She's been working for a very long time. Wolf is a poor boy who can't afford his rent, can't afford to eat most of the time, so he drinks red wine and smokes a lot. So when Death starts telling her tales from the beginning, he writes them down. Sorry, my battery died. Sorry. She tells him of historical deaths, famous deaths, beautiful deaths, and questionable deaths. And I have found out that Idris Elba production company Green Door has the TV and film rights to this, so I'm hoping they make it soon. And that's it. I spent over £40, but I got some absolute bosters this month, so I'm pleased. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you have collected. That's last month, this month, any month, either purchased or borrowed. Have you read any of those books? And what did you think of them? Like and subscribe if you want to. Otherwise, don't forget to drink more water. Until next time, bye bye.